Before we jump in, please remember that the information provided in this video is for educational and informational purposes only. I am not a financial advisor, and the real estate market can be unpredictable. You should always consult with your managing broker and a qualified legal professional to ensure you are in full compliance with your local, state, and federal regulations. Your success depends on your own effort, skill, and application of the principles discussed. You get the notification, a new lead from your website. Your heart does that little jump. You grab your phone, you dial the number, it rings once, twice, they pick up. Hello. And in that split second, your mind goes completely blank. You stumble. Hi, is this Sarah? My name is Bob from Elite Realty. You were just on my website looking at a house. And you can literally feel the wall go up. You can hear the eye roll through the phone as she says, "Oh yeah, I'm just looking." Click. The dial tone is the only thing left. Another $100 of your marketing budget gone, another potential commission evaporated, and another little piece of your confidence chipped away. If that sounds painfully familiar, I need you to listen very, very closely for the next few minutes. Because that exact scenario is the reason most agents in the United States fail to break six figures a year. It's not because they aren't working hard. It's not because they aren't buying enough leads. It's because nobody ever taught them what to actually say when they get someone on the phone. We're given a CRM, a login to the MLS, and a pat on the back with the good luck. But the single most important money-making skill in this entire business, the ability to turn a cold lead into a warm appointment over the phone, is a complete mystery to 90% of agents. But what if I told you that you could turn "I'm just looking into that's a great question, when can we meet?" What if you could take control of every single call, know exactly what to say next, and build instant rapport and authority in the first 45 seconds? What if you could stop being a telemarketer begging for business and start being a trusted advisor people are excited to talk to? That is exactly what we are going to do today. I am going to give you 5 powerful word-for-word scripts that will completely transform your phone calls and, as a result, your entire real estate business. These aren't fluffy theories. These are battle-tested, psychologically driven frameworks that have been used to close millions of dollars in real estate transactions across the country. They're designed to do 3 things: break the prospect's pattern of talking to every other agent, uncover their true motivation, and set a firm appointment. By the end of this video, you will have a secret weapon for every type of client call you'll ever have to make. So let's get right into it. The first script, and arguably the most important one you will ever master, is for the inbound internet lead. This is your Zillow lead, your Realtor.com lead, your Facebook lead, or a lead from your own website. This is the lifeblood of a modern agent's business, and it's also where the most money is wasted. First, let's diagnose the problem. The old way, the way everyone else does it, is fundamentally broken. It sounds like this. "Hi, is this John? This is Mike with ABC Realty. I'm calling because you inquired about the property on 123 Main Street. Is now a good time to talk?" Let's break down why this is a complete disaster. First, asking, "Is this John?" immediately puts them on the defensive. It's a classic telemarketer opening. Second, stating your name and brokerage is irrelevant to them. They don't care. Third, asking, "Is now a good time?" literally gives them the easiest out in the world. Of course it's not a good time. They're busy, they're at work, they're with their kids. You've just handed them a golden ticket to hang up on you. You have failed before you've even started. We need to flip the script. We need to use a technique called a pattern interrupt. Their brain is expecting a sales call, so we have to do something completely different that snaps them out of that pre-programmed rejection mode. Our goal is to sound less like a salesperson and more like a helpful, competent concierge who is responding to a direct request they just made. So here is the new opening. The lead comes in, you call immediately. They pick up. "Hello." You say with an upbeat, confident tone. "Hi Sarah. This is your name. I'm seeing you're looking at the home on 123 Main Street online right now, and I just had one quick question for you. Let's dissect that." It's brilliant in its simplicity. We say their first name with confidence like we're supposed to be talking to them. We don't ask if it's them. We state our name but not our brokerage yet, that's not important. Then we use the magic phrase, "I'm seeing you're looking at the home right now." This creates urgency and immediacy. It tells them this isn't a cold call from a list. It's a direct response to an action they just took seconds ago. Finally, we end with, "I just had one quick question for you." This is psychologically powerful. A quick question is low commitment. It's not, "I want to talk for 20 minutes." It's easy for them to say yes to, and it creates a little bit of mystery. They want to know what the question is. You've hooked them. Now, what is that one quick question? This is the pivot. This is where we take control of the conversation and shift it from a sales interrogation to a strategy session. The question is not, are you working with an agent? It's not, are you pre-approved? And it is absolutely not, when are you looking to buy? Those are all about you, your commission, your timeline. The magic question is about them. You ask, out of curiosity, what was it about that specific home that caught your attention? Boom, that's it. So simple yet so effective. This question does several incredible things at once. 1, it's disarming. It's a genuine curious question. 2, it proves you are paying attention and are calling about that specific property, not just as a random agent. 3, and most importantly, it gets them talking about what they want. They'll start telling you their dream. Oh, I love the big backyard for my dog. Or we've been looking for an open concept kitchen just like that. Or it's in the school district we need to be in. They are literally handing you the keys to the kingdom. They are telling you their motivation. They are giving you the exact criteria you need to find them the perfect home. Their answer to this one question is the foundation for the entire rest of the conversation. Once they answer, you don't just move on. You dig a little deeper with a follow-up. Oh, that's great. A big yard is important. Is that for a pet? Or for kids? Or just for some extra space? You are now having a real conversation. You're building rapport. You're not an agent anymore. You're a problem solver. From here, you transition into a simple framework I call LP Mama. It stands for location, price, motivation, agent, mortgage, appointment. You've already started to uncover their motivation. Now you guide the conversation through the rest of the points, but in a conversational way, not an interrogation. It might sound like this. That's fantastic. So it sounds like a big yard in that school district is a huge priority. Are you pretty set on staying in that specific neighborhood? Or are you open to other areas that might have similar homes? That's location. And just to make sure I'm only sending you relevant properties, what's the comfortable price range you're hoping to stay in? That's price. You've already hit motivation. Now for the tricky ones. Agent. Never ever ask, are you already working with an agent? It's a yes or no question that can kill the call. Instead, you ask it this way. Have you seen any homes in person with another agent yet? It's a much softer, less threatening question. If they say no, fantastic. If they say yes, you can follow up with, oh great, who are you working with? Or have you signed any kind of buyer's agreement with them? You need to know where you stand. Next, mortgage. Again, don't ask, are you pre-approved? It sounds invasive. Instead, try this. In this competitive market, it's really important to have all your ducks in a row. Have you had a chance to speak with a lender yet to see what you qualify for? It's framed as helpful advice, not a demand. And finally, the entire point of the call, the appointment. You've built rapport, you've provided value, you've uncovered their needs. The transition is natural. Sarah, based on everything you've told me, I know of a couple of other properties with great backyards in that same school district that you would probably love. One of them isn't even on Zillow yet. I'm actually going to be in that neighborhood tomorrow afternoon around 4. Or would Saturday morning be better for you to take a quick look? Notice you're not asking if they want to meet. You are assuming the meeting. You are the expert, the guide, and this is the logical next step. You're offering a choice of 2 times, which makes it much more likely they'll pick one. So let's put it all together. The full script number 1 for the inbound internet lead, looks like this. Hi Sarah. This is your name. I'm seeing you're looking at the home on 123 Main Street online right now, and I just had one quick question for you. Out of curiosity, what was it about that specific home that caught your attention? They answer. You listen. That's great to hear. A big yard is so important. So it sounds like you're focusing on the neighborhood name area. Are you open to any other nearby neighborhoods? You discuss location and price. This is really helpful. Now, have you had a chance to see any homes in person with another agent yet? You discuss their agent status. Perfect. And just so we're prepared in this market, have you already spoken with a lender to figure out your purchasing power? You discuss their mortgage status. Okay, Sarah, this has been fantastic. Based on what you're looking for, I have a few properties in mind that I think you're going to be really excited about. I have some time tomorrow at 4 p.m. Or would Saturday at 10 a.m. be better for a quick 15-minute chat to go over a strategy for finding your perfect home? That is how you turn a cold internet click into a qualified appointment in under 5 minutes. It's a framework, not a rigid script. You have to listen, be human, and adapt. But by following this structure, you take control, you build value, and you get the appointment. This single script, if you master it, will pay for every dollar you ever spend on lead generation 10 times over. Now let's talk about the single most dreaded phone call in all of real estate. The call that makes new agents sweat and seasoned veterans cringe. I'm talking about calling a for sale by owner, FSBO. These are homeowners who have planted a flag in their front yard that screams, "I don't want you. I don't need you. And I definitely don't want to pay you." And how does the average agent approach this? They call up with the same tired, transparent lines the FSBO has already heard 6 times that day. "Hi, are you cooperating with buyer's agents?" Or the even worse, "I see you're selling on your own. When do you plan on interviewing a real professional for the job?" It's a direct challenge. You're basically walking up to a stranger and saying, "The huge financial decision you just made is stupid, and I'm here to prove it." How do you think that's going to go? Click. Dial tone. That's how it goes. I remember when I was a new agent, my broker handed me a list of FSBOs and said, "Go get 'em, Tiger." I spent an entire morning calling them. It was brutal. One guy told me he'd rather set his house on fire than list with an agent. Another one just laughed and hung up. By noon, I felt completely defeated. I was convinced it was impossible. My mistake was that I was trying to kick down a door that was bolted shut. I was asking, "Can I preview your home? Can I tell you about my marketing plan? Will you pay me 3%? I was just another voice trying to take something from them. The secret to converting FSBOs isn't a clever line or a magic trick. It's a fundamental shift in your entire approach. You have to stop trying to take and you have to start giving. You have to be the one person who calls them who isn't trying to get a signature on a listing agreement. You have to be the one who offers pure, unadulterated value, with no strings attached. This is what we call a pattern interrupt. They are expecting a sales pitch. They have their defenses up, ready for battle. When you do the exact opposite, their brain short circuits. They don't know how to react, so they do the one thing you need them to do. They listen. So here it is. Script number 2. The Value First FSBO script. This isn't about getting the listing on the first call. It's about getting your foot in the door so you can build a relationship and become their only logical choice when they finally realize selling on their own is a nightmare. You dial the number. They pick up. "Hello." You say, "Hi, I'm calling about the house for sale on Maple Street. Is this the owner?" They say yes, and you can already hear the suspicion in their voice. Here's the pattern interrupt. Don't mention real estate yet. Instead, you ask a simple human question about their future. You say, "Great. My name is," your name. "Hey, I was just curious, where are you guys planning on moving to next?" This question completely disarms them. It's not about their house. It's not about your commission. It's about them, their plans, their dreams. It's a forward-looking, positive question. They might say, "Oh, we're moving to Texas to be closer to our grandkids." Or, "We're downsizing to a condo downtown." Whatever they say, you engage with it for a moment. "Texas, that's fantastic. I hear Austin is beautiful this time of year." You're building rapport. You're a human being having a conversation. Now comes the pivot. This is where you offer the value. "Well, that's really exciting. Listen, I know this is probably the 10th call you've gotten from a real estate agent today, and I promise my reason for calling is different. I know you're selling the home yourself to save on the commission, and I completely respect that. In fact, a lot of my best clients started out selling on their own first. Because of that, I actually put together a little FSBO resource kit for folks in the neighborhood just like you. It's nothing crazy, just a packet with some information that you might find helpful. It has a checklist of the top 15 marketing strategies that don't cost a dime, a copy of the latest state-required disclosure forms that a lot of people forget, and a list of a few great local title companies who are FSBO friendly. There's no catch and no sales pitch, I just figured it might help you out. Would it be okay if I dropped it by for you sometime this afternoon? Let's break down why this is so powerful. First, you acknowledge their reality. I know this is the 10th call you've gotten. This shows empathy. You get it. Second, you validated their decision. I completely respect that. You're not challenging them. You're on their side. Third, you offer tangible, specific value. Not some vague promise, but a FSBO resource kit with a checklist, legal forms, and contacts. This positions you as an expert and a giver. And finally, you made a low-threat request. You're not asking for a 2-hour listing presentation. You're asking to drop it by. Feels easy and non-committal. Now, they might be skeptical. They might say, "What's the catch? What do you get out of this?" This is a critical moment. Your answer needs to be honest and confident. You say, "That's a fair question. Honestly, there is no catch. My entire business is built on relationships. Best case scenario for you, you take my kit, you use the information, you sell your house for a great price, and you save the commission. And I'll be thrilled for you. And my hope is that maybe down the road, you remember the one agent who actually tried to help you instead of just trying to get your listing. Maybe you pass my name along to a friend, or maybe you decide this is more work than you thought and you give me a call. Either way, it's a win for me in the long run. So, would 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. be better for me to swing by for just 5 minutes? Boom. You've addressed the elephant in the room. You've framed it as a long-term relationship play, not a desperate grab for a commission check. You've made it completely safe for them to say yes. And by offering 2 time choices, 4 p.m. or 5 p.m., you're not asking if you can come, you're asking when. When you show up, you don't show up with a listing agreement. You show up with a simple folder, your FSBO kit. You hand it to them, you smile, you ask a quick question about the house, and you stick to your promise. Like I said on the phone, "I just wanted to drop this off for you. I won't take up your time. If you have any questions at all after you look through it, even just a simple 'what do I do next' kind of question, please don't hesitate to call. My cell is right on the front. Good luck with everything." And then you leave. You walk away. This is the hardest part, but it's the most important. You have just defied all of their expectations. You were professional. You were helpful. You kept your word. You weren't a pushy salesperson. You were a valuable resource. You have planted a seed of trust and reciprocity. Now you follow up. Not the next day, but maybe in 4 or 5 days. A simple text. "Hey John, just wanted to check in and see if that resource kit was helpful. Hope the process is going smoothly." That's it. You stay top of mind, not as a pest, but as a helpful guide on the sidelines. When the stress of selling on their own mounts up, the endless calls from unqualified buyers, the no-shows for appointments, the confusing paperwork, who are they going to think of? The 9 aggressive agents who tried to force a signature? Or the 1 professional who gave them value, respected their decision, and offered help with no strings attached? You become the inevitable choice. This script isn't about a one-call close. It's about playing the long game. It's about transforming yourself from a salesperson into a trusted advisor. And that is the key to dominating the most difficult corner of the market. Now let's pivot from the high net worth seller to a challenge that every single agent faces, probably on a daily basis. The just looking buyer. You know the call. It's the one that makes most agents sigh internally. The voice on the other end is hesitant, almost apologetic. They say things like, "Hi, I saw your sign on the house on Maple Street. I'm not really serious, just kind of starting my search." Or the classic, "We're just looking." For 90% of agents, this is a dead-end lead. They hear "just looking" and immediately classify the caller as a tire kicker, a time waster. So what do? They fall into one of 2 traps. The first is the aggressive agent trap. They try to force a commitment. They push for an appointment. They demand to know if the caller is pre-approved. They try to lock them into a buyer's agency agreement before they've even built an ounce of trust. The result? The caller gets spooked. They feel pressured, they get defensive, and they hang up the phone thinking, "Wow, real estate agents are pushy. You've lost them forever." The second is the passive agent trap. This agent is the polar opposite. They hear "just looking," and they completely back off. They say, "Oh, okay, no problem. Well, let me know if you see anything you like." Maybe they'll offer to send a link to their website. They're so afraid of being pushy that they provide 0 value. The result? The caller hangs up and forgets the agent's name within 5 minutes. They get absorbed back into the Zillow-sphere, and the agent becomes a forgotten, fleeting voice. Both of these approaches are fundamentally flawed because they misunderstand the caller's psychology. When someone says, "I'm just looking," they are not saying, "I will never buy a house." They are saying, "I am not ready to be sold to." They are putting up a shield. They've been conditioned to believe that the moment they show interest, a salesperson will pounce. Your job is not to break down that shield with a sledgehammer or to simply walk away. Your job is to make the shield irrelevant. This brings us to script number 2, the information guide script. The entire goal of this script is to reframe the relationship from one of salesperson and prospect to one of guide and explorer. You are not trying to sell them a house. You are not trying to get an appointment. You are trying to become their trusted personal source for real estate information. You want them to think of you as their personal Google for the local market. Here's how it works. The call comes in. Hi, I'm calling about 123 Maple Street. I'm just looking, not really serious yet. The average agent's heart sinks. Your heart should leap because this is a golden opportunity. Instead of pushing or retreating, you do this. You sound warm, enthusiastic, and completely relaxed. You say, "That's fantastic. Honestly, just looking is the most exciting part of the entire process. It's like window shopping for your future. My name is your name, and my goal isn't to rush you into anything at all. It's simply to help you look more effectively. I can tell you everything about that property, but first, to make sure I'm even giving you the right information, would it be okay if I asked you what it was about that specific home that caught your eye? Let's break down what just happened." You used the word fantastic, which is pattern interrupting. They expect you to be disappointed. You're excited. You validated their position by calling it the most exciting part. You explicitly stated your goal is not to rush them, which directly addresses their unspoken fear. And then you asked a brilliant open-ended question. You didn't ask, "What's your price range?" or "How many bedrooms do you need?" You asked what caught their eye. This invites a story. They might say, "Oh, I just love the big front porch." Or, "It looked like it had a really big backyard for the dog." Now you engage. "Ah, the front porch. It's incredible, isn't it? You can just imagine having a cup of coffee out there on a Sunday morning." A lot of the homes in that specific neighborhood have that classic welcoming feel. Are you finding that you're drawn to homes with that kind of character? You see the shift? You're not talking about square footage and taxes. You're talking about feelings and lifestyle. You're having a human conversation. You are building rapport at a lightning pace. After a minute or two of this kind of conversation, you pivot to the value proposition. You say, "Based on what you're telling me, it sounds like you're not just looking for a house, you're looking for a certain feeling." The challenge with looking online is that websites like Zillow and Redfin are just data dumps. They can't tell you what a neighborhood feels like on a Saturday afternoon, or which streets get the best morning light. Here's something that a lot of my clients who are in your exact position have found incredibly helpful. I can put together a curated collection of homes for you. Not an automated drip campaign that spams you, but a hand-picked list of properties that match the vibe you're describing. Some of them might not even be officially on the market yet. There's no pressure and no obligation. It's just a smarter way to browse than sifting through thousands of listings online. Would that be helpful for you? This is the home run. You've positioned yourself as an expert curator, a market insider. You've devalued the big portals they've been using and offered them something exclusive and personalized. The phrase "smarter way to browse" is key. Who doesn't want to be smarter? And the question, "Would that be helpful for you?" is a low-friction, easy yes. When they say yes, and they almost always will, you simply say, "Wonderful. What's the best email address to send that over to?" And just so you know what to expect from me, I'm not going to be calling you every day. I'll send you this initial list, and then I'll just check in via text in a few days to get your thoughts on the vibe of those homes, so I can fine-tune the next search. Sound good? You've done it. You've captured their contact information. You've set clear, non-threatening expectations for follow-up. And most importantly, you have transformed a cold, hesitant, just-looking call into the beginning of a warm, trust-based relationship. You are no longer one of 100 agents they might click on. You are their personal guide. The psychology here is profound. You're using the principle of reciprocity. By offering immense, personalized value up front, you create a natural desire for them to work with you later. You've lowered the stakes from, "Will you marry me on the first date?" to "Can I buy you a coffee?" It's a micro-commitment that opens the door to macro-commitments down the line. From this point on, your follow-up is everything. You send them that hand-picked list. You include personal notes. Saw this one and immediately thought of what you said about wanting a great backyard for your dog. You send them a market report for the neighborhoods they like. You text them a photo of a new coffee shop that opened up in an area they're interested in. You are consistently, patiently, and professionally demonstrating your value. So when the time comes for them to get serious, and it will, who are they going to call? The pushy agent who tried to force them into an appointment? The passive agent whose name they can't remember? Or the trusted guide who has been helping them navigate the market for weeks, or even months? It's not even a choice. By mastering the information guide script, you turn what the rest of the industry sees as a dead-end lead into the single most powerful source for building a long-term, sustainable pipeline of loyal clients. You are playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. This strategy builds your business from the ground up, with clients who are loyal and appreciative. But what about the other side of the coin? What happens when you have a listing appointment with a seller who is completely, utterly, and dangerously unrealistic about their home's value? They've seen their neighbor's renovated home sell for a record price, and now they believe their home, with its 1980s kitchen and original shag carpet, is worth even more. Walking into that conversation unprepared is a recipe for disaster. You either take an overpriced listing that will never sell, or you tell them the hard truth and they show you the door. But there is a third way. There's a script designed specifically to navigate this pricing minefield, to bring sellers back down to reality without alienating them. It's all about mastering the art of the price anchor, and it can be the difference between a lost listing and a signed contract at the right price. So, how does this price anchor actually work in a real conversation? Let's dive into our second powerhouse script, which I call the price anchor script for the overambitious seller. We've all been there. You walk into a beautiful home. You've done your homework. You know the comps like the back of your hand. You're thinking the home is worth, let's say, $875,000. You sit down at the kitchen table, the sellers are lovely, they offer you a coffee, and then they drop the bomb. We've been watching the market, and our neighbor Jim sold his house for a fortune. We won't take a penny less than $1 million. Your heart sinks. $1 million isn't just a stretch, it's in a different stratosphere. It's a price that will make their home the laughingstock of the local MLS tour. It will sit and sit and sit, collecting digital dust and lowball offers, ultimately selling for less than it would have if it were priced correctly from day one. Now, the amateur agent does one of two things here. The first, and most common, is they become confrontational. They say, "$1 million? That's impossible. The comps don't support that at all. Here, look at this data." They immediately create an adversarial relationship. It's you versus them. You're telling them their baby is ugly, their pride is on the line, and their defenses go straight up. You've already lost. The second mistake the amateur agent makes is even worse. They become a yes man. They say, $1 million. Okay, let's go for it. You never know. They agree to the ridiculous price just to get the listing signed. This is called buying the listing, and it's a cardinal sin in this business. All you're doing is becoming the overpriced home's glorified house sitter for the next 6 months, wasting your time, your money on marketing, and destroying your reputation in the process. The world-class agent does neither. The world-class agent understands that this isn't a battle of wills. It's a process of education and collaboration. They use the price anchor script. Here's how it sounds. When the seller says, "We want $1 million," you don't flinch. You lean in, you nod, and you start by validating them. You say, "Okay, $1 million. I appreciate you sharing that number with me. It's great that you have a clear goal in mind. To make sure we're on the same page, can you walk me through how you arrived at that specific price?" This is a critical first step. You're not challenging them. You're inviting them into a conversation. You're showing respect for their opinion. And 9 times out of 10, their reasoning will be based on a cocktail of zestimates, a neighbor's bragging at a barbecue, and what they need to make to buy their dream home in Florida. It's based on emotion, not on market data. Once they've explained their reasoning, you pivot. You say, "Thank you for that. It's really helpful to understand your perspective. My job isn't to tell you what your home is worth. Frankly, no agent can do that. The only person who determines the value of your home is the buyer who writes the check. My job is to be your market economist. It's to interpret what today's buyers are telling us they are willing to pay for a home like yours in this neighborhood right now. Can we take a few minutes to look at what the market is saying together?" Look at the framing there. You've completely shifted the dynamic. It's no longer you versus the seller. It's you and the seller side by side, looking at a common opponent, the market. You've positioned the market data as an objective, third-party truth, not your personal opinion. Now, you open your laptop or your presentation, but you don't just show them a jumble of 20 comps. That's overwhelming and ineffective. You anchor them. You say, "Let's look at this from a buyer's point of view. A buyer looking in this price range has options. Let's start with the absolute top of the market, the best case scenario. This home over on Elm Street, you probably know it, it sold last month. It had a brand new kitchen, a finished basement, and it backed onto the park. They got multiple offers and it sold for $950,000. That is our absolute ceiling. That's the highest price a buyer has been willing to pay in this neighborhood for a home of this size in the last 6 months. You've just set the high anchor. You started with their best case scenario, which is psychologically brilliant. You're showing them the peak of the mountain. But you've also subtly established that even the absolute best, most updated home didn't get $1 million. Then you immediately set the low anchor. You continue. Now let's look at the other end of the spectrum so we understand the full range. This home on Maple Avenue is the same square footage as yours, but it needed a new roof and the kitchen was from the 90s. It sat on the market for 87 days, went through 2 price reductions, and finally sold for $825,000. This represents the floor for a home of this size that needs work. Now you've established the playing field. You have a ceiling of $950 and a floor of $825. Their fantasy number of $1 million is now floating untethered. Outside the realm of reality, you've just created with hard data. This is where the magic happens. You don't tell them the price. You guide them to discover it for themselves. This is the crucial pivot. You look them in the eye and say, "So, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, let's put ourselves in the buyer's shoes for a moment. They're a smart, savvy family. They've seen every home on the market. They see the fully renovated home that sold for $950. They see the fixer-upper that sold for $825. And then they see your wonderful home. If we put your home on the market for $1 million, where do you think that savvy buyer is going to perceive the value? Where will they write their offer?" Silence. Let them think. You've just handed them the keys. You've empowered them. You've transformed them from a defensive seller into an objective buyer. They are now looking at their own home through the critical lens of the person who will actually purchase it. They will almost always come to the logical conclusion themselves. They might say, "Well, our kitchen isn't as new as the one on Elm, but it's much nicer than the one on Maple. So maybe somewhere in between?" You've won. The argument is over. Now you're just collaborating on the final strategy. You close with a final collaborative question. Exactly. You're seeing it just like a buyer would. So, based on this data, where do we need to position ourselves on price to not just get showings, but to create a sense of urgency and attract the strongest possible offers in the first 14 days, while we have the most leverage? This script is a masterpiece of psychology. It uses the anchoring bias to frame the conversation around a realistic range. It removes you as the source of conflict by positioning the market as the objective third party. And most powerfully, it uses a perspective shift to force the seller to see their own home through the eyes of a buyer, which is the only perspective that truly matters. You're no longer the bad guy delivering bad news. You are the trusted advisor, the market expert, the strategist who is helping them navigate a complex process to achieve the best possible outcome. This is how you take a listing at the right price, protect your reputation, and actually get the home sold for top dollar, turning a potentially lost client into a raving fan for life. Mastering this script turns a pricing argument into a strategy session. But what about the leads that aren't even sure they want to be clients? I'm talking about the legions of just-looking browsers. The Zillow leads, the open house tire kickers who clog up your pipeline with maybes and not right nows. How do you convert that casual curiosity into a committed client who is ready to sign a buyer's agency agreement? That requires a totally different kind of leverage. It requires you to stop selling houses and start solving problems. That brings us to our third script, a tool so effective it can feel like a Jedi mind trick. The problem/solution script for the fence-sitting buyer. We've all had this client. They've been on your automated email list for 18 months. You've shown them 47 houses. They love everything but are in love with nothing. They are professional fence-sitters. Their indecision is a slow, soul-crushing leak in your business pipeline. You spend weekends with them, write offers that they back out of at the last second, and you start to question your own sanity. The rookie agent's response? More listings, more follow-up calls, more pressure. This one just had a price drop. The market is hot. You've got to move. This is like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. The problem isn't the house. The problem isn't the market. The problem is that the buyer has lost the plot. They've forgotten why they started this journey in the first place. They're so lost in the forest of features, hardwood floors, quartz countertops, school districts, that they can't see the path out. Your job isn't to show them another tree. Your job is to hand them a compass. The problem/solution script isn't about pushing them off the fence. It's about helping them realize which side of the fence their dream life is on. It requires a dedicated call. This isn't a quick text. You need to set the stage. Sounds like this. Hey Sarah, it's John. Got a minute for a quick honest chat? I was reviewing all the homes we've seen, and I had a realization I wanted to share with you. Notice the framing. Honest chat. This signals it's not a sales call. It's a strategy session. I had a realization. This positions you as a thoughtful advisor, not a desperate agent. When she agrees, you continue. We've seen some incredible homes over the last few months. That colonial on Elm Street, the modern one by the park. Objectively, they were great properties that checked a lot of your boxes. And yet, something didn't click enough for you to say yes. And I want you to know that is perfectly okay. My job isn't to sell you a house. It's to help you make the right move. And it got me thinking. Maybe we've been focusing on the wrong thing entirely. This is a pattern interrupt. You're validating their inaction. You're taking all the pressure off. You're siding with them against the problem. Instead of making them feel like they are the problem, you've disarmed them and created a safe space. Now, you deliver the killer question. Sarah, can we just hit pause for a second? Let's forget about houses, forget about interest rates, forget about everything. I want to go back to the very beginning. Can you tell me again? What problem are we actually trying to solve by moving? And then, the most important part of this entire script, you shut up. The silence might be uncomfortable. Let it be. They've been in house hunter mode for so long. They haven't thought about this foundational question in months. Their brain will literally reboot. They'll stop thinking about square footage and start thinking about their life. And then the truth will come out. It won't be, well, we need 2,500 square feet. It will be, honestly, our 2 kids are sharing a bedroom and they're at an age where they just fight constantly. My evenings are a non-stop refereeing match. It's so stressful. It won't be, we want a home office. It will be, I'm trying to run my business from the corner of our dining room table. I can't focus, my work is suffering, and I feel like I never truly leave the office. It won't be, we need a bigger yard. It will be, my dad's getting older, and I'd love for him to be able to come live with us, but we just have no space for him. And it breaks my heart. This is pure gold. This is the emotional fuel that drives every major purchase. They haven't just given you information. They've given you their pain. Now you don't sell them a house. You sell them the solution to their pain. Your next step is to take that pain and make it tangible. You say, okay, thank you for sharing that. So the real issue is the constant stress in the evenings from the kids fighting over their shared space. It's making your home, the one place you're supposed to relax, feel like a war zone. Is that fair to say? Wait for the yes. Let them confirm it. Now you've identified the problem and confirmed the emotional cost. The final step is to reframe the entire search. All right. Then from this moment forward, our mission has changed. We are no longer looking for a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house. We are looking for peaceful evenings. We are on a hunt for a home where the kids have their own space to thrive, so you and your husband can finally relax after a long day. Every house we see from now on, we're not going to ask, do we like the kitchen? We're going to ask, does this house bring peace back to our family? That's the only question that matters. Do you see the power in that? You've completely transformed the objective. A house is a commodity. Peaceful evenings is a priceless dream. You've moved from a logical puzzle to an emotional quest. Now, when you show them the next house, their perspective is different. They don't see an extra bedroom. They see a future of quiet nights. They don't see a finished basement. They see a space for their aging father to live with dignity. The house becomes the vehicle for the life they desperately want. The urgency is no longer manufactured by you talking about the market. The urgency is internal, driven by the daily pain of their current situation. The cost of inaction. Another 6 months of stressful evenings, another 6 months of a struggling business, suddenly feels far more terrifying than the cost of making a decision. This script works because it aligns you with their deepest motivations. You stop being a door opener and become a life changer. You're not just facilitating a transaction. You're solving a fundamental life problem. And when you operate on that level, you don't just get a commission. You get a client for life who will tell everyone they know that you're the agent who doesn't just sell houses, you solve problems. But what about the client who isn't stuck on a house, but is paralyzed by fear of the market itself? The buyer who says, I think I should wait for prices to drop. Or are interest rates going to crash? For them, you need a different kind of tool. Not a mind trick, but a dose of irrefutable calming logic. That's where our fourth script comes in, the time machine framework for the market timing buyer. This framework isn't about convincing them they're wrong. It's about guiding them to the right conclusion on their own, using a simple, powerful story. When a buyer says, "I think I'm going to wait for interest rates to come down," you don't argue. You don't push. You agree and you pivot. Here's what you say. "John, that's an incredibly smart way to think about it. Honestly, it's the million-dollar question, and if I could perfectly predict interest rates, I'd probably be on a yacht somewhere. But since we're here, can I walk you through a quick thought experiment? I call it the time machine. It helps us look at the real cost of waiting. Is that okay?" You've done two things. You've validated their concern, making them feel heard and intelligent, and you've asked for permission, which puts them in a receptive state. Now you take them on a journey. Okay, great. Let's hop in our time machine. First stop, 18 months ago. Let's say late 2022. Mortgage rates were spiking, fear was in the air, and a lot of buyers just like you decided to hit pause and wait. Now let's look at a house. Let's say the kind of house you're looking for today, which is selling for about $500,000. Back then, because of the fear and the high rates, that same house was probably listed for around $450,000. Now, the person who bought that house at $450,000, even with a high 7% interest rate, had a monthly payment that was maybe a bit uncomfortable. But what happened over the next 18 months? Their home value didn't crash. Did the opposite. It appreciated. That $450,000 asset is now the $500,000 house you're looking at today. That person, the one who was brave enough to buy when everyone else was scared, is now sitting on $50,000 in pure tax-free equity. They effectively made almost $30,000 a year just by living in their house. They locked in the price before the market ran away from them. They're already winning the game. You pause here. Let that sink in. You've just anchored the conversation in a real, tangible gain that someone else achieved by not waiting. Now you take them to the future they're dreaming of. Okay, now let's get back in the time machine and go to the future. Let's say it's 6 or 8 months from now, and the news we've all been waiting for hits. The Fed has cut rates, and mortgage rates drop a full percentage point. On the surface, that sounds amazing, right? But what do you think happens the very next day? Every single buyer who's been sitting on the sidelines in their apartments waiting and saving, they all jump back into the market at the exact same time. The demand that was spread out is now compressed into a single moment. What does that create? A frenzy. It creates bidding wars. It creates offers $50,000 over asking price. It creates waived inspections and appraisal gaps. It creates the exact same chaos we saw back in 2021. So that $500,000 house we're looking at today, in that future, it's not $500,000 anymore. With all that new competition, it's now selling for $550,000, maybe $575,000. So yes, you might get a 1% lower interest rate. That might save you, say, $300 a month on your payment. But you just had to pay an extra $75,000 to get the house. You're paying $75,000 more in principal to save $300 a month. The math just doesn't work. You've taken a massive step backward in your net worth on day one. You've now painted a vivid and very realistic picture of the future they think they want. You've shown them the hidden cost. Now, you bring them back to the present, positioning today as the true opportunity. Okay, let's bring the time machine back to today. Right here, right now. What's the situation? Well, prices are relatively stable. The frantic competition is gone. We can actually look at a house, submit a reasonable offer, and maybe even negotiate with the seller for closing costs or repairs. We have leverage that will completely vanish the moment rates drop. This is the window. This is the opportunity. There's a saying in real estate that's more true now than ever. You marry the house, but you only date the rate. What that means is we find the house you love, the one you want to build your life in, and we lock it in at today's price. We secure the asset before the next wave of appreciation hits. The interest rate? That's temporary. It's just what you're paying for the first couple of years. The moment rates dip to a point that makes sense, we connect you with a great lender and you refinance. It's a simple process. So you get the best of both worlds. You get the $50,000 equity gain we saw from the people who bought 18 months ago, and you eventually get the lower monthly payment that the people waiting for the future are hoping for. You win on the asset price and you win on the long-term cash flow. The people who wait risk losing on both. They pay more for the house and their monthly savings are minimal if they exist at all. And that's not even counting the money you're spending on rent while you wait. If your rent is, say, $2,500 a month, in the next year of waiting, you'll have spent $30,000 on your landlord's mortgage with zero return for yourself. That's $30,000 you could have been paying towards your own asset, building your own equity. So, the question isn't really about timing the market, because even the smartest billionaires on Wall Street get that wrong. The question is about time in the market. Does it make more sense to wait and compete with the entire world in a bidding war for an overpriced house later? Or does it make more sense to secure the house you want now, at a fair price, and simply refinance when the time is right? Which path puts you in a better financial position 2 years from now? And then you stop talking. You've laid out an irrefutable, logical case. You didn't use high-pressure tactics. You used a story. You empowered them with a framework to see the market not as a threat, but as an opportunity. This script transforms you from a salesperson into a strategist, and it's how you convert the most analytical, hesitant buyers into confident homeowners. But what about the opposite problem? What about the seller who's terrified to list their home because they don't want to give up their precious 3% interest rate? This is the golden handcuffs dilemma, and it's paralyzing a huge portion of the market. To unlock that inventory, you need to show them that their handcuffs aren't made of gold. They're made of paper. And our fifth and final script, the Unlocking the Golden Handcuffs calculation, does exactly that. This script is for the homeowner who says, "We'd love to move, but we can't. We're locked into our 2.75% interest rate. It would be financial suicide to sell." You've heard it 1,000 times. It's the single biggest objection in modern real estate, and it stops deals dead in their tracks. The homeowner isn't being difficult, they're being logical. On the surface, their math checks out. Why would anyone trade a $1,000 principal and interest payment for a $3,000 one on a similarly priced home? They wouldn't. And that's the trap. They are making a logical decision based on incomplete and improperly framed data. Their entire financial worldview is anchored to that one number: the interest rate. It's a big scary monster under the bed. Our job isn't to tell them the monster isn't real. Our job is to turn on the lights, show them what the monster is actually made of, and reframe the entire room. The Unlocking the Golden Handcuffs script isn't about convincing. It's about co-calculating. It's a collaborative process of discovery that leads the homeowner to their own conclusion. Staying put is costing them more than they think. So the phone rings. It's the Millers. You helped them buy their starter home 5 years ago. They have 2 kids now, they're bursting at the seams, but they have a 2.8% rate. They call you for a valuation just out of curiosity, but you can hear the resignation in their voice. When they bring up the rate, this is where the script begins. You start with empathy and validation. Never fight the objection. Agree with it. You say, "John, Sarah, I get it. 100%. If we only look at that interest rate, the conversation is over before it starts." Giving up a sub 3% rate feels like ripping up a winning lottery ticket. And honestly, if that were the only number that mattered, my advice would be to stay put and build an addition. But it's not the only number. In fact, it's distracting us from the real calculation we should be doing. Would you be open to running through a different set of numbers with me? A total cost of living and quality of life calculation. It'll take maybe 10 minutes, and at the end of it, you'll have total clarity on whether moving is a smart decision or a terrible one. Fair enough. Let's break that down. First, you agreed with them. You entered their side of the conversation. You're not an adversary. You're an ally. Second, you minimize the perceived threat by saying, "If that were the only number that mattered." This plants the seed that there are other numbers. Third, you name the new framework: total cost of living and quality of life. This sounds official, logical, and intriguing. It's not about feelings. It's about a calculation. Finally, you asked for permission and gave them a low-friction, time-bound commitment, 10 minutes, with a clear, valuable outcome: total clarity. Who says no to that? Now they've agreed. The door is open. You're not a salesperson anymore. You're a financial consultant. You begin the co-calculation. You say, "Great. Let's start with your current situation. We know your principal and interest is, let's say, $1,500 a month, and your taxes and insurance are another $500. So you're at $2,000 PITI. That's our baseline. Now let's talk about the hidden costs of staying in this house. This is the stuff that doesn't show up on a mortgage statement. How old is your HVAC system?" They might say, I think it's original to the house, maybe 15 years old." You respond, "Okay, a new HVAC system is what, a $10,000 to $15,000 job these days? Let's be conservative and say $12,000. A 15-year-old system is on borrowed time. So, you have a $12,000 bill that's going to come due in the next, say, 3 to 5 years. If we amortize that, it's like you're secretly paying an extra $200 a month into a future repair fund that you haven't set up yet. Let's write that down. $200. What about the roof? You see what's happening? You are systematically identifying and quantifying the invisible costs of their cheap house. You go down the list. The windows are drafty. How much is your electric bill in August? $1,000? A new energy-efficient home in that neighborhood you love might have a bill that's half that. So that's potentially $500 a month in savings during the summer. Let's average it out over the year and call it another $200 a month in hidden costs. The commute. This is a huge one. John, you mentioned you're driving 45 minutes to the office now, and that new neighborhood would be just 10 minutes away. You're saving over an hour a day in the car. The IRS mileage rate is about 67 cents a mile. If your round trip is 50 miles, that's $33 a day in gas, wear, and tear. 20 work days a month, that's $660. We're not even counting the value of your time yet, just the hard cost to your car. Let's add that to the list. You continue this process. Are they paying for a storage unit because they've run out of space? Add that $150 a month. Is the lack of a home office hurting their productivity or preventing one of them from taking on a remote job or side hustle? That's an opportunity cost. You don't have to put a hard number on it, but you need to mention it so it's in their mind. After 5 minutes, you've done the audit. You say, okay, let's tally this up. Your PITI is $2,000, but we've identified $200 for the future HVAC, $200 in energy and efficiency, $660 in commute costs, and $150 for the storage unit. That's an extra $1,210 a month. So your actual all-in cost of living in this cheap house is over $3,200 a month. Does that sound about right? You've just completely reframed their reality. Their $2,000 payment is an illusion. The real number is over $3,200. They are shocked, but they can't argue with it because they gave you the numbers. It's their math. Now you pivot to the future home. Okay, so let's look at the house you love over in the new development. The list price is higher, and with today's rates, the PITI would be, let's say, $4,200 a month. On the surface, that's $1,000 more than your real cost of living now. It's a jump, but let's look at what that $4,200 buys you. This is the key. You're not just comparing cost to cost. You're comparing cost to value. First, that new house comes with a brand new HVAC system under warranty. So that $200 a month hidden cost? Gone. It has brand new energy-efficient windows and appliances. So that $200 energy cost? Gone. It's 10 minutes from your office. So that $660 commute cost? Gone. It has a 2-car garage with plenty of storage. So that $150 storage unit fee? Gone. When you subtract all those savings, the new payment of $4,200 is effectively competing against your old payment of $3,200. The actual cash out-of-pocket difference isn't $2,000 like you thought. It's closer to $1,000. And yes, $1,000 is still $1,000. But now let's talk about the quality of life side of the equation. Now you transition from the logical to the emotional, but you anchor it in tangible benefits. What does that extra $1,000 a month get you? It gets you a home that fits your family. It gets you an extra bedroom so the kids aren't on top of each other. It gets you a home office so you can be more productive. Most importantly, it buys you back over an hour of your life every single day that you're not spending in traffic. That's over 20 hours a month. That's an entire day of your life every month that you get back to spend with your family, at the gym, or just relaxing. John, Sarah. What is a full day of your life back every single month worth to you? Is it worth $1,000? And then you are silent. You let them answer that question. This script works because it's a paradigm shift. It takes the homeowner's single point of focus, the interest rate, and shatters it into a dozen smaller, more manageable pieces. It transforms a conversation about interest rates into a conversation about lifestyle, efficiency, and total cost. You're not selling them a house. You're helping them buy back their time, their peace of mind, and their future. You're showing them that the golden handcuffs aren't a life sentence. They're a math problem. And you, the agent, are the one with the key to solve it. By the end of this 10-minute call, they no longer see a 2.8% rate as an anchor holding them in a safe harbor. They see it as an anchor holding them back from the life they actually want to live. And that is how you unlock the inventory that everyone else thinks is permanently off the market. Alright, let's dive into our fourth script. This one is for a scenario every single agent listening has faced, probably within the last week. The dreaded online lead. You get the notification, a new lead from Zillow, from your website, from wherever. Your heart gets a little flutter of excitement. You dial the number, they actually pick up, and you say your name. And then you hear it. The 5 words that kill your momentum dead in its tracks. Oh, I'm just looking online. It's the conversational equivalent of a brick wall. Most agents hear this and their shoulders slump. They say, okay, well, let me know if you need anything. And hang up defeated. They just flushed a potentially massive commission check down the toilet because they didn't have a script. The problem is, when a lead says, I'm just looking, they're putting up a shield. They're anticipating a high-pressure sales pitch. They've been conditioned to believe that the second they show interest, a salesperson will try to wrestle them into a car and force them to buy a house that day. Your job is not to break down that shield with brute force. Your job is to make it irrelevant. You do that by immediately showing them you're not a threat, you're a resource. Here is the script. It's called the pressure-free zone script. The lead says, I'm just looking. You immediately respond with a warm, relaxed tone and say, that's perfect. Honestly, about 90% of the people I talk to for the first time are in the exact same boat. My goal isn't to sell you a house today. It's just to help you make your looking process a whole lot smarter and easier. Can I ask you a quick question? They'll almost always say yes because you've completely disarmed them. You then ask, when you're looking online, what are you finding is the most frustrating part of the process? And then you just shut up and listen. They might say the information on Zillow is wrong, or that houses are listed as active when they're already pending. They might say they can't figure out what the property taxes are. Whatever they say, it's a gift. They are literally handing you their pain point on a silver platter. Let's say they complain about the accuracy of Zillow. You say, I hear that all the time, it's a huge problem. The big sites get their data on a delay, so you're constantly falling in love with homes that are already gone. Look, how about this? With zero pressure or obligation, what I can do is set you up with your own personal search portal that's connected directly to our local MLS. It's the exact same system that we agents use. It's updated in real time, so you'll see new homes the second they hit the market, and you'll see homes go pending the second it happens. No more guesswork. I can even set it up to alert you to properties that are coming soon, before they even hit Zillow. Would a tool like that be helpful for your research? What have you just done? You haven't asked for an appointment. You haven't asked for a pre-approval. You haven't asked for a buyer's agency agreement. You have taken their stated goal, just looking, and given them a professional, high-powered tool to do it better. You've moved from annoying salesperson to invaluable resource in about 45 seconds. 9 times out of 10 they will say yes. And once they say yes, you have your foot in the door. You have their permission to follow up. You can say, great, I'll get that set up for you right now. I'll shoot you a text in about 15 minutes to make sure you got it and that it's showing you the right kind of homes. By the way, while I'm building this out for you, are you focused on any specific neighborhoods? And just like that, you are in a real conversation. You've turned a dead end into a pipeline. You're playing the long game. You're not trying to get a client today. You're trying to build a relationship that guarantees you'll be the agent they call when just looking turns into ready to buy. That brings us to our 5th and final script, and this one is for when you're already working with a buyer. It's for handling one of the most delicate and high-stakes conversations in the entire transaction: the offer price. Imagine this. You've shown your buyers the Millers' 10 houses. They finally walk into the one. Their eyes light up. They're measuring for curtains in their head. It's perfect. The list price is $550,000. You run the comps and you know that in this market it's going to sell for at least that, probably a little more. You sit down with the Millers to write the offer, and Mr. Miller looks at you and says, we love it, but we've been reading the news, and the market's slowing down. We want to offer $510,000. Your stomach drops. You know with absolute certainty that an offer of $510,000 on this house is the equivalent of lighting the paperwork on fire. It will get rejected instantly, and you'll likely lose the house to another buyer. The amateur agent gets defensive. They say, you can't do that. That's way too low. They create a conflict. They position themselves against their own client. The world-class agent sees this as an opportunity to build trust and educate. They use what I call the data-driven decision script. You look at Mr. and Mrs. Miller, you smile and you say, I completely understand where you're coming from. In a market like this, the absolute last thing anyone wants to do is overpay. And my number one job is to protect you and your investment. So let's make sure we do this right. The way I see it, we have two different goals we could be aiming for right now. Goal number one is to get a deal. Goal number two is to get this house. Sometimes those are the same thing, but in a competitive situation, they can be different. So before we put a number on paper, can we spend 3 minutes looking at the hard data together so you can make the best possible decision for your family? You've validated their feelings, you've aligned with them as their protector, and you've asked for permission to be their guide. Now you turn your laptop around. You don't just tell them the comps, you show them. You say, okay, look, here are the 3 most similar homes to this one that have sold in this neighborhood in the last 90 days. This one on Oak Street was listed at $545,000, and it sold for $555,000 in 4 days. This one on Maple Avenue was listed at $550,000 and sold for $560,000 in its first weekend. It had 3 offers. Now here's one that sold for under list price. It was listed at $560,000 and sold for $540,000. But look, it was on the market for 48 days and the agent's notes say it needed a new roof and foundation work. You're not giving them your opinion. You're giving them indisputable facts. You're telling a story with data. Then you pivot to the final piece. So the market data is telling us that a clean, updated home like this one is consistently selling for at or slightly above its list price. The seller and their agent are looking at this exact same data. So when we write our offer, we have a choice. We can write an offer at $510,000 to test the waters and see if we can get a deal. The most likely outcome, based on this data, is that they'll either ignore it or another buyer will come in stronger and we'll lose our chance. Or we can write an offer that's designed to actually win the house, which the data suggests would be somewhere around state the realistic price range. There is no right or wrong answer here. It's your money and your decision. My job is just to make sure you understand the likely consequences of each strategy. So what feels like the right path for you? You have transformed the conversation. It's no longer you versus them. It's you and them versus the market. You've laid out the objective reality, explained the options, and empowered them to make the final call. You've replaced their fear, which was based on vague headlines, with clarity based on hyperlocal specific data. If they still choose to offer low, that's their prerogative, but now they're prepared for the likely rejection. They won't blame you. They'll understand it was a calculated risk they chose to take. But most of the time, when presented with the clear evidence, clients will make the logical choice. They will write a strong competitive offer. And when that offer gets accepted, you are not just their agent. You are their trusted advisor, their strategist, the expert who guided them through the fire and got them the home of their dreams. That is a client for life. But what happens after the celebration? What happens when the euphoria of an accepted offer wears off and the cold, hard reality of the inspection report lands in their inbox with a thud? This is the moment where more deals fall apart than any other. It's the moment of peak buyer's remorse. The phone rings and you hear it in their voice. The excitement is gone. It's been replaced by panic. Did you see this report? The inspector found moisture in the crawl space. The water heater is 10 years old. There are cracks in the driveway, and a GFI outlet in the bathroom isn't working. This house is a lemon. I think we need to back out. Now the average agent hears this and immediately goes into defense mode. Their commission is flashing before their eyes. They say things like, oh, don't worry about that stuff. Every house has issues. The moisture is probably nothing, and you can get a new water heater for a few $100. It's not a big deal, we need to move forward. They downplay, they dismiss, and they push. And in doing so, they completely invalidate their client's very real fear. They break the trust they just spent weeks building. They turn an advisory relationship into an adversarial one. The client feels unheard, and they dig their heels in. Deal dead. A world-class agent knows this isn't a problem to be dismissed. It's an opportunity to lead. This is where you deploy our fourth script, the reality check and roadmap script. It's designed to take their panic, validate it, and then systematically transform it into a clear, manageable action plan. When they call you with that list of horrors, you don't push back. You join them on their side of the table. You start with pure validation. You say, John, thank you for calling me right away. I've got the report right here, and I completely understand why you're concerned. Seeing a long list of imperfections in black and white is overwhelming for anyone. It's a totally normal part of the process to feel a little freaked out right now. So let's take a deep breath, because you and I are going to go through this together line by line. Look at what you just did. You didn't say, "Don't worry." You said, "I get why you're worried." You normalized their fear. You didn't dismiss their concerns. You agreed to look at them together. You're not a salesperson anymore. You are their partner in this problem. The tension in their shoulders immediately drops. They feel heard. Now you pivot. You gently shift them from the fear of the unknown back to the dream they were chasing. You continue. Before we dive into the details of the report, can we just take one step back? Remind me, what was it about this house that made you say, "This is the one"? What did you love about it when we first walked through? They might hesitate, but then they'll say, "Well, the backyard for the kids was perfect. And that open kitchen. I could just picture us having Thanksgiving there. And it's in the best school district." Boom. You've just reconnected them to the emotional core of their decision. You've pulled them out of the spreadsheet of problems and put them back into the daydream of their future life. This is critical. You have to re-anchor them to their why before you tackle the how. Once they're recentered, you introduce the structure. This is where you take control, not by force but by providing a clear, logical framework. You say, "Okay, that's exactly right. Let's keep that picture in our minds. Now let's tackle this report, but we're not going to let it intimidate us. We're going to give it a job. We're going to take every single item on this list and put it into one of 3 buckets. Are you ready?" Bucket number 1 is for deal breakers. These are the major, non-negotiable issues. Think foundation problems, a failed roof, serious safety hazards. These are the things we absolutely must have the seller address. Bucket number 2 is for negotiation points. These are legitimate issues, like that older water heater or the non-working outlet, that aren't catastrophic but are perfect for us to ask the seller to repair or give us a credit for. Bucket number 3 is the homeowner to-do list. This is for the little stuff, the cosmetic cracks, the loose doorknob, the kind of things that every house has and that you can fix over a weekend after you move in. Does that sound like a fair way to break this down? What have you done here? You've taken a terrifying, chaotic monster of a document and turned it into a simple sorting exercise. You've given them a feeling of control in a situation where they felt powerless. Of course they'll say yes. It's a brilliant, logical path forward. Now you execute the plan together. You go through the report item by item, and you collaboratively sort them into the buckets. Okay, the moisture in the crawl space. Let's put that in bucket 1, deal breakers, and our first step is to get a specialist to find out exactly what we're dealing with. The 10-year-old water heater? It's working, but it's old. Perfect for bucket 2, negotiation points. The cracks in the driveway? Purely cosmetic. That's a bucket 3, a future project for you. See how this works. As you do this, the scary 30-page report shrinks down to just 2 or 3 truly important items in bucket 1. The problem is no longer a mountain. It's a handful of manageable molehills. Their anxiety plummets and their confidence in you skyrockets. Finally, you deliver the action plan and reaffirm your role as their champion. You end the call by saying, "Okay, great work. Here's what happens next. I am going to immediately schedule a foundation specialist and a plumber to give us professional quotes on the bucket 1 items, so we are negotiating with real numbers, not fear." Once we have that data, you and I will draft a repair request to the seller that focuses on the most critical issues. My job is to fight for you to get these things corrected or to get you a credit that makes you whole. You are in complete control. You will make the final decision. I'm just here to get you the best possible information and the best possible outcome. How does that sound? This script is a masterclass in emotional intelligence and strategic guidance. It doesn't just save a deal. It forges an unbreakable bond with your client. They will never forget the time they were in a full-blown panic, ready to walk away from their dream home. And you were the calm, confident expert who provided a clear path through the chaos. You didn't sell them. You served them. You didn't push them. You partnered with them. You have now successfully navigated the emotional minefields of multiple offers and inspection anxiety. You've secured the house. The deal is solid, but the job isn't over. In fact, the most important part, the part that separates a one-time commission from a lifetime of referrals, is just about to begin. Because what happens after the closing papers are signed is what defines your entire career. And that brings us to our 5th and final script, the script that 99% of agents get wrong. It's the one that ensures you're not just the agent they use once, but the agent they recommend to everyone they know forever. This is the moment where an agent becomes an advisor, where a transaction becomes a relationship, and where a one-time commission becomes a lifelong stream of referrals. This is the post-closing value script, and it's not one call. It's a system, a philosophy. The fundamental mistake nearly every agent makes is viewing the closing table as the finish line. They hand over the keys, send a bottle of champagne, and then crickets. Maybe a generic holiday card in December, or an automated happy home anniversary email a year later that screams, "My CRM is thinking of you, but I'm not." This is transactional poison, because the moment your client walks into that empty house, their journey isn't over. It's just beginning. And if you're not part of that new journey, you'll be forgotten, replaced by the plumber who fixed their first leak or the landscaper who transformed their yard. You did the hard part, but they get the credit because they were there when it mattered after the sale. This system changes that. It positions you as the indispensable hub of their entire homeownership experience. It starts 48 hours after they get the keys. The first call is the first night check-in. Forget asking about the paperwork. You call them and say this, "Hey Sarah, it's Alex. I know you're probably surrounded by boxes, so I'll be quick. I'm not calling about business. I just wanted to see how the first night in the new house went. Did you guys manage to get the pizza delivered to the right address?" Let that sink in. It's human. It's real. It's what a friend would ask. You're connecting with them in the chaotic, emotional, memorable moment of their first night. Then you add a layer of value. By the way, I know it's a blur, but did you happen to locate the main water shutoff valve? It's one of those things that's a lifesaver to know before you need it. If not, no worries, I have a picture of it from the inspection report I can text over. Boom. In 30 seconds, you've done 3 things. You've shown you care about them as people. You've provided practical, immediate value. And you've reinforced your role as their knowledgeable guide. You're not the salesperson anymore. You're their homeownership expert. Next comes the 30-day triage call. A month has passed. The initial excitement has worn off, and the small quirks of the house are starting to appear. This is a critical window. You call and say, "Hey Mark, Alex calling. Can you believe it's been a month already? I wanted to do a quick homeowner triage with you. Any surprises pop up? Any weird noises from the furnace, or what on earth does this light switch do?" Moments that I can help you figure out. You're inviting them to share their problems. You're becoming their first call, not their last resort. Then you deliver the knockout blow of value. Also, I'm constantly updating my personal list of trusted local vendors, the best painters, electricians, plumbers, you name it. The ones who actually show up and do great work. I was about to send it over to you. Is there any specific project you've been thinking about, even just daydreaming, that I can help you find the right person for? This is a game changer. A curated vendor list is one of the most valuable assets a homeowner can have. You're not just giving them a list, you're giving them your reputation. You're saving them the headache of scrolling through Yelp reviews and the risk of hiring a dud. You are the ultimate connector. You've just made their life 10 times easier. Now we move to the 90-day mark, or whenever it's seasonally appropriate. This is the financial guardian call. This one script can save your client thousands of dollars and earn you a referral for life. It's the homestead exemption reminder. You call and say, "Hi Jennifer. Quick but really important call from Alex. I was just reviewing some property tax deadlines and wanted to make sure you had filing for your homestead exemption on your radar. The deadline is coming up, and in our county, it can save you a significant amount of money on your property taxes every single year." It's a simple form, but it's amazing how many new homeowners miss it. I have the direct link to the county's e-file page, if you'd like me to text it to you. Stop and think about the power of that call. You didn't ask for anything. You didn't try to sell them anything. You reached out proactively and put actual money back into their pocket. What do you think Jennifer is going to say the next time her coworker mentions they're thinking of buying a house? She's not going to say, "I used this agent, they were nice." She's going to say, "You have to use my agent, Alex. They're still saving me money a year after I bought my house. They're on a different level." You've just become a financial hero. Finally, we arrive at the 1-year mark. This is where you replace the lame, automated email with the 1-year equity review. This call is powerful because it reconnects them to the wisdom of their decision to buy, and to you as the guide who led them there. You call and say, "Hey David, it's Alex. I'm looking at my calendar and I can't believe it's been exactly 1 year since you closed on the house. Happy home-iversary. The reason I'm calling is I just ran an updated market analysis for your neighborhood, and I wanted to give you a quick, informal home equity checkup. Based on a few recent sales on your street, It looks like your home's value has increased by an estimated 8% in just the last 12 months. That means you're sitting on roughly $30,000 in new equity. I just think it's incredibly empowering for you to know the kind of wealth you're building. How has the first year been treating you? This is a masterstroke. You've transformed a simple anniversary into a celebration of their financial success. You've reminded them that this house isn't just a place to live. It's their single greatest asset, and it's performing beautifully. You've validated their purchase and, by extension, their choice of you as their agent. This conversation naturally opens the door to their future plans. Maybe they're thinking about a home equity line of credit for a renovation. Maybe they're considering an investment property. And who is the very first person they are going to talk to about it? The expert who is already tracking their investment and celebrating their success. This entire system, the first night check-in, the 30-day triage, the financial guardian, the equity review, it's a cycle of proactive, overwhelming value. The common thread is that you never ever directly ask for a referral. You don't have to. You are earning referrals at every single touch point. You are becoming so essential, so valuable, so integrated into their life as a homeowner that they can't help but talk about you. You become a story they tell at dinner parties. You become the solution they offer when a friend has a problem. You're not just the person who sold them a house. You are their person for anything related to that house. These 5 scripts, from the first cold call to the 1-year equity review, are more than just words. They are a roadmap, a framework for shifting your entire business from chasing the next commission to building a fortress of loyal relationships. The top 1% of agents in this country don't have a magic lead source. They have a system for creating raving fans. They understand that the sale isn't the end of the conversation. It's the beginning of the real work. The work of being an advisor, a guardian, and an indispensable resource. That is how you build a business that is not only recession-proof but legendary. Stop selling houses and start changing lives. The scripts are here. The choice is yours. Now go pick up the phone.